Okay, Walter, thanks once again for joining us. I suppose a lot of people will find it very difficult to get their head around the concept of programmatic print, because how can something like print be programmatic? Obviously, we're combining two different types of technology here. On one hand, we've got the CRM systems like Pardo, for example, and then we're also combining that with the capacity to do personalised digital print. But can you give us a bit more background on how all this actually works in practice?
Sure, and you've got a great point there. I think this whole integration with the CRM systems is so critical because that's where we could get the data and make the printed piece personal and also arrive at the right time. So as they got to the right point in the customer journey, whether it was a certain action online or a certain reaction to an email, we were then able to send that data over to a printer, and the printer was then able to combine that dynamic data with templates that we had already created and then send that out in real time to people to hopefully encourage them to take the action we wanted, which in this case was to get online and take a look at the students' work.
My name is Martin McCall and I work in business development here at Severn, and having seen firsthand just how students have been impacted over the past 18 months, giving students a platform to showcase their work at such a critical period in their career was just a project that Severn had to be part of. Whilst this is a very complex job and required a very tight turnaround, the processes and the automation that we have in place are the same for every job. The files and the information came into the factory. We supplied a soft proof to the customer for approval. Once it was approved, those print-ready files were sent to the machine. The IX was loaded with the correct substrates. We printed, we guillotined, and we then fulfilled and mailed the project out within the time period we mentioned. So, despite being quite complex, it's quite a simple process.
But what advice would you give to creatives about actually how they can harness programmatic print?
We talked about one so far, which is the more you know about the customer, the more you can speak specifically to their interests and their needs and what they're looking for. The other piece that I would mention is that you need to work as a team. And I think that worked really well for us. We worked really well together between the drum and Canon, but we also worked with designers that were designing the mail pieces to make sure that what we were designing was something that could be mailed, something that wouldn't incur a lot of extra postage charges. And we were also working with our printer to say, okay, what are the best papers that we can use? How can we get the best look at the lowest cost? And I think this teamwork approach, really getting all the parties together, is critical to getting the most effective campaign.
This project was all about personalization. The personalization was based on two things: the recipient's browsing pattern as well as their geographical location. This enabled us to create engaging print that was relevant to those recipients and resulted in us producing 2,800 individual postcard packs. Those QR codes were key to tracking that engagement and being able to give students those metrics. That meant that you could see who was actually getting involved with their content.
There were two primary journeys, one for students to submit their work and another for creative professionals to register and explore the exhibition. Professional creatives could select their interest during the registration journey so that we could suggest personalised recommendations of student work. Creatives could explore all of the work in the gallery section and view individual projects to find out more and connect with the student on LinkedIn and major social networks.
I actually have one question for you, Gordon. How did the drum feel about the whole project? What are some key learnings or things from the drum from your side?
We love seeing the sort of work coming through, identifying some of the trends. So we love that sort of whole emotional connection, but also then to combine that with the technical side. We engaged our whole company basically. The journalists got excited because they got to write about creative work. We got our marketing team excited about employing the CRM systems. We had our print production team creating the templates. So it's one of those projects that actually touched every single part of the business. And I think it does illustrate just how the world is converging, isn't it? I mean, years ago, our print production team would have been completely separate from our data team. So there's a really insight actually, you got your print production people suddenly working very, very close with our data management people. And you sort of get a sense that actually the world is converging.
I think it needs to. I think to be effective, customers want to have a consistent journey. They want to have consistent messaging. And regardless of whether it's in print or online, they want to have that engagement with the brand.
Yeah, that's great. But anyway, Walter, thanks again for taking part. That was really fascinating.
My pleasure.